Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm about to talk to you about one of the most powerful but often overlooked principles of personal transformation. How to disappear and transform yourself. Sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? How do you disappear and transform at the same time? To truly understand the power of transformation, we first need to grasp the concept of disappearing. How and why it's essential to your growth. Disappearing isn't about physically vanishing or becoming invisible to the world. It's about stepping away from the distractions, the noise, and the familiar comforts of your current life to focus on the most important part of your journey, yourself. I've had moments in my own life when the pressure of expectations was overwhelming. There were people around me who thought they knew what I should be doing, who I should be, and what my next step should look like. But it wasn't until I disappeared, in a sense, from the loud world around me that I realized how much of my life was being lived based on the opinions and influence of others. The truth is, transformation doesn't happen when you're constantly plugged into the feedback loop of other people's judgments and expectations. It happens when you decide to go inward, to reflect, to evaluate, and to reconstruct your life according to your own purpose and vision. We live in a world where everyone is constantly visible. On social media, in public spaces, at work, in relationships, people are always watching. And we are trained to feel like we have to show up, be present, make our mark, prove ourselves. But if you've ever felt that your true potential was out of reach, or if you struggled to figure out where you fit, it may be because you're too caught up in that cycle of external validation. So what you need is a moment of retreat, a chance to step back and to disappear from the world's demands for just long enough to rediscover who you truly are, apart from everyone else's expectations. Think about it. When was the last time you sat quietly without the pressure of deadlines, social obligations, or the weight of people's opinions? When was the last time you were truly alone with yourself, able to listen to the deep whispers of your heart and soul without the constant pull of the outside world? It's in these moments of solitude where clarity comes. It's in the stillness that you hear your deepest thoughts and desires, and that's when God can speak to you most clearly. Disappearing also means stepping away from your past, the familiar routines that have defined who you are up to this point. It requires the courage to detach from your old self, the patterns, habits, and beliefs that have kept you locked in a cycle of mediocrity. This doesn't mean abandoning everything that has brought you this far. It means letting go of what no longer serves your greater purpose. The old you was fine for a season, but that version of you is not fit for the version of your future that God is calling you into. Now, disappearing to transform yourself doesn't mean you check out completely from the world. It's not about escaping responsibility or abandoning your commitments. Instead, it's about intentionally creating space, physically, mentally, and emotionally, for growth. It's about removing the distractions that keep you stuck in the comfort of who you've been, so you can evolve into the person you're destined to become. And here's the part that most people miss. You don't always know what that transformation will look like when you first step back. It's scary because you can't see the full picture from the moment you decide to disappear. The path isn't always clear. The cocoon doesn't look like a butterfly at first. But you have to trust that just as a seed needs to be buried in the dark soil before it grows into something magnificent, your process of growth might require you to disappear from the view of others for a time. This retreat, this quiet, is where the magic happens. As you disappear to reconnect with your purpose, you also reconnect with your own personal power. You tap into the deep well of confidence that comes when you stop seeking approval and start seeking alignment with your true self. You discover that the key to your future success isn't found in doing more, but in being aligned with who God created you to be. Without the noise and interference of external demands. That is the beauty of disappearing. It gives you the room to reinvent yourself without external pressures. It allows you to shut down the noise of society's expectations and instead get in touch with your inner voice, the voice that whispers your true calling. It is in that silence that your clarity will come, your next steps will become obvious, and your direction will be set. In a world that glorifies busyness and constant visibility, disappearing is a radical act of faith and self-love. It's about trusting that in the absence of external validation, God is at work inside of you, preparing you for something far greater than anything the world could offer. When you disappear, you make room for God to move in ways you never thought possible. This is the power of disappearance. This is how you step into your future, by retreating, resetting, and then reemerging as a transformed version of yourself, one that is more aligned with your purpose, more powerful in your confidence, and more capable of fulfilling your destiny than ever before. Embracing the unseen path requires a willingness to step into the unknown. It's about trusting that even when the future seems unclear, there's a divine purpose unfolding just beyond the horizon. When you embrace transformation, you're not just making a surface level change. You're allowing God to redefine your entire journey, guiding you down paths that might initially seem strange, uncomfortable, or uncertain. The unseen path is not about having everything figured out or knowing exactly where you're going. It's about moving forward in faith even when the road ahead isn't visible. I can tell you from personal experience, the hardest part of any transformation isn't the change itself, it's the fear of the unknown. There are moments when we're faced with a decision to move forward, but we hesitate because the path is unclear. We want a clear sign, a certainty, a roadmap of what's going to happen next. But here's the secret. The path will rarely, if ever, be clear when you're first called to walk it. I remember when I made the decision to step into a new phase of my life. I had no clear idea of what that would look like or how I would get there. All I had was a feeling, a whisper in my heart telling me to go. It felt like stepping off a cliff into nothingness. There was no guarantee of success. There was no promise that the ground would catch me. But there was something stronger than my fear, the belief that if I trusted God and took the first step, He would light my way. That's what embracing the unseen path requires. Trust. Trust in the process, trust in the journey, and most importantly, trust that God has already prepared a way for you, even if you can't see it yet. It's the kind of trust that says, even though I can't see what's next, I believe that if I keep moving, the way will open up before me. Transformation, at its core, is a journey of faith. Faith isn't just belief in the outcome, it's belief in the process. It's about knowing that even in the moments where you feel lost or uncertain, God is still working behind the scenes. The unseen path might look like a detour, or it might feel like a long, winding road that doesn't seem to go anywhere. But in reality, it's a path designed to develop you, to strengthen your character, to test your resolve, and to prepare you for something far greater than you can ever imagine. It's easy to want to follow the well-trodden paths, the ones that are clear and familiar. But God doesn't always lead us down paths that are easy or obvious. Sometimes He calls us to walk through the wilderness, to go where no one else has gone, to venture into the unknown. This is where true transformation happens, not when we are walking in the comfort of what we already know, but when we are forced to lean on God and trust Him with every step we take. I know it can be tempting to want a blueprint for your life, clear instructions on exactly how to get from where you are to where you want to be. But the beauty of God's plan is that it's not always laid out in a straightforward way. Instead, it's a journey where He shows you the next step when you take the one before it. And sometimes that step might look like a leap of faith. There are seasons when you have to walk with little more than the trust that God knows where He's leading you, even if you can't see the destination. It's like hiking through the woods on a foggy day. The trees obscure your view of the path ahead, but you know that if you keep moving forward, eventually you'll emerge from the fog into clearer ground. Transformation works the same way. The fog of uncertainty might surround you, but if you trust the process, you'll come through it stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the next leg of the journey. And this is where so many people miss the mark. They get stuck in the fear of the unknown. They're so focused on not knowing what's ahead that they miss the beauty of the journey itself. But the unknown doesn't have to be a source of fear. It can be a place of opportunity. When you embrace the unseen path, you free yourself from the constraints of needing everything to be clear and neat. You allow yourself the freedom to grow, to explore, and to discover. In my life, there have been many times when I've had to embrace the unknown. Times when I couldn't see how things would work out, when it felt like I was stepping into a fog that seemed to stretch on forever. But with each step I took, the fog lifted a little more. Things started to make sense in ways I never expected. What I thought was a detour became the very path that led to the breakthrough I was searching for. And that's the thing about embracing the unseen path. It's not about having all the answers right away. It's about walking with God step by step, trusting that he will reveal what you need when you need it. It's about finding peace in the uncertainty, knowing that the one who called you to this journey is faithful to guide you through it. If you want to experience true transformation, you have to be willing to take that first step into the unknown. You have to let go of the need for complete clarity and trust that God's plan for you is unfolding exactly as it should. When you do that, you'll find that the unseen path leads you to places of growth, freedom, and purpose that you could never have imagined from where you are standing now. Are you ready to embrace the unknown? Are you willing to walk the unseen path that leads to your greatest transformation? If you are, I promise you this: you will never regret trusting the journey. The path may not always be clear, but the destination is worth it. And with every step, you'll discover that the unseen path is the one that transforms you into the person you were always meant to be. The principle of controlled obscurity is about intentionally stepping out of the spotlight in order to focus on personal growth, learning, and development. It's not about disappearing out of fear or retreating from the world, but rather taking a step back so that you can move forward with even greater clarity and power. In a world that constantly demands visibility, performance, and acknowledgement, controlled obscurity is a powerful strategy for reinvention. I've experienced the power of controlled obscurity in my own life. There was a season when I felt like I was doing all the right things, working hard, putting in the hours, making connections, but nothing was happening. It was like running in place, giving everything I had without seeing any results. It was frustrating, and honestly, it made me question everything I was doing. But at that point, I had a revelation. I needed to step back and allow myself the space to think, to grow, and to develop without the constant pressure to prove myself to the world. Controlled obscurity is not a rejection of the world or of success. It's about creating the space to work on yourself without the pressure of external validation. I remember feeling this tension. I knew I had potential, but I was overwhelmed by the noise. I wanted to do big things, but I couldn't hear the direction clearly because I was always reacting to what others expected of me. It was in that moment of stepping back, of pulling away from the hustle and the demand for attention, that I was able to get really clear on what my goals were. Without the distraction of others' expectations, I started to recognize the areas of my life that needed to be refined. I found that true growth doesn't happen in the frenzy of chasing after opportunities or trying to keep up with everyone else. True growth happens when you allow yourself the room to evolve quietly, to learn in peace, and to develop in your own time. The world will tell you that if you're not visible, you're not relevant. Social media constantly pushes the idea that visibility equals success. But this is an illusion. Visibility can be a trap. It can distract you from doing the inner work that prepares you for the success you truly deserve. If you're constantly in the spotlight, it's difficult to focus on anything other than performing for others' approval. In controlled obscurity, you learn to work behind the scenes, away from the public eye, but still diligently refining yourself. It's like a blacksmith forging steel in the quiet of his workshop. No one sees the hammer strikes, the heat of the furnace, or the countless hours spent perfecting the craft. But when that steel finally emerges, it's stronger, sharper, and ready for anything. The same is true for you. The most successful people I know have mastered this principle. They've understood that visibility is earned, not demanded. They know that stepping into the spotlight too soon can rob them of the necessary preparation to truly succeed. If you look at any major success story, you'll find that the individual went through a period of quiet development, often away from the public's gaze. It's in these seasons that they learn, fail, grow, and prepare themselves to take on the challenges that come with true success. But controlled obscurity doesn't mean hiding indefinitely. It's about setting boundaries. It's about deciding that your time and energy are too precious to waste chasing fleeting trends or seeking external approval. It's about taking ownership of your life and your purpose, understanding that there's a season for visibility, but that season must be preceded by one of careful cultivation. There's a reason why the greatest breakthroughs often happen when no one is looking. Those breakthroughs are the result of the quiet work that happens behind the scenes. There's also a certain power in this kind of controlled obscurity because it allows you to move freely without the judgment of others. You're no longer boxed in by what other people think of you or expect from you. The pressure to conform or to fit into someone else's mold is lifted, and you can begin to create and act in alignment with your true self. The external noise fades, and what remains is the clarity of your vision, your purpose, and your path. In this phase, you also gain something incredibly valuable, the ability to fail privately. In obscurity, failure doesn't carry the same weight as it does when the world is watching. You're allowed to make mistakes, learn from them, and adjust your course without the added pressure of needing to explain yourself to everyone else. This is a gift, because without the fear of public judgment, you can experiment, try new things, and learn at your own pace. You can embrace failure as part of the process without the shame or embarrassment that often accompanies public mistakes. There's an undeniable power in staying out of the spotlight until you're truly ready to shine. It's a process of refining your craft, building your confidence, and developing your inner strength. The most successful people I know didn't get there by rushing to the top. They got there because they took the time to build a solid foundation. They learned the lessons that weren't visible to the outside world. They practiced their craft until they had mastered it. And only then did they step into the light, ready to claim the success they had worked for. In controlled obscurity, you learn patience. You learn that success isn't just about timing, it's about preparation. And when you're prepared, when you've taken the time to do the work in private, your success is unstoppable. You're no longer relying on luck or timing. You're relying on your ability to perform at your highest level because you've spent the time learning, growing, and becoming the best version of yourself behind the scenes. Remember, visibility will come when it's time. But the key is to embrace the unseen work. Do the work that nobody sees so that when it's time for the world to see you, you're not just ready, you're unstoppable. And when you emerge, it's not just about the success you've achieved. It's about the strength, the wisdom, and the character that have been forged in the quiet, unseen spaces of your journey.